Welcome to the My Wool Mitten podcast, Sock Spin Along 24. My name is Carrie. Let's spin a sock yarn. So let's talk real quickly about the fiber prep that you might be able to use. Of course, you could start with raw locks. You could add some mohair for strength, some alpaca, as I've mentioned that I like to do, and you can see the crimp here that matches the crimp of the wool. So, and I should note that if you're starting at this point, you may need more than you may need at least the 8 ounces of fiber because you're going to lose some in your processing. But so between a 3 and a 5-inch staple, I think 4 is about the best. I like a good medium crimp or even going more towards the finer crimp. You would think that the long, silky, more open staple would be better, but it's not always. Now, that said, a good Romney, a good border Leicester makes nice sock yarn. So, there again, it's going to be experimentation on your part. But my preference is a good medium crimp or tending toward a finer crimp, just so you get a nice bouncy fiber. So there could be raw locks. You could use roving. You might have some comb top. This is farm-raised comb top, not commercial comb top. It has a little bit more life and bounce to it. Pin drafted or pencil roving. Maybe you have a friend who sends you a lovely, lovely hand-carded bat to spin from, and that's perfectly acceptable, especially when it's a gift. You might have done a little bat yourself, and maybe you're even going to add some mohair or something to give you a little strength. Maybe even some silk if you like silk. It is nice if you have a scale to weigh your fibers on. I find that about a half an ounce is all I need for my toes, but maybe you like more length in your toes, so that would be up to you, but I do use a scale to weigh it out. So those are some of the fibers that we could be spinning from. Have you already got your fiber picked out? Maintenance of our spinning wheels. It's important, and it's something that we probably all forget to do, especially when we're spinning a lot, is to take good care of our spinning wheels. And it doesn't take very many things. I just have a few laid out here on the table that I use to take care of my spinning wheel. I have 2 of them. They're both Louettes. I love Louette spinning wheels. I can do anything I want to on them, from fine to art yarns. So there's my little plug for Louette. But whatever type of spinning wheel that you have. Now, it would be different for an electric spinner, and it would be different for your drop spindles. But for a more traditional spinning wheel, I like to have, mine has a natural coating on it, and so I have a good beeswax here that I can go over and kind of clean it and buff it up. That's with a nice soft rag. The Q-tips I use to clean the orifice hook, and around, I go inside of the bobbins and clean in there. You'd be surprised how much gunk gets built up in those, in any of the tight places that I can't reach. I don't use the butcher or the beeswax inside of the bobbin here, but I use that on the wood. The Q-tips I use around the metal parts, like I say, the hooks, the inside the bobbins, the orifice hook, that kind of thing. And years ago at a workshop, the man, and now I'm forgetting his name, but who was one of the part of the family that had originated the wet spinning wheels, had told us to use just a simple chapstick type of thing, lip balm type of thing, to lay where our bobbin rests. So that's what I have there, and this was a gift from my stepdaughter from her flower farm, and that's handy to have right with my spinning kit. I try to always keep a spare drive band. I shouldn't say it because now I'll have to. It's been years since I've had to replace one, but it's going to happen one of these days. And I probably should just do it routinely because they do stretch. And yours might have a string band or a cloth band, or it might have that clear poly. But I try to always have a spare drive band for my wheel, and I try to always remember to take the tension off my wheel when I'm not spinning. Mine tightens with, not with an Allen wrench like some wheels do, but just with a regular screwdriver. So I have a small one that goes also in my little spinning basket. And so that's just what those things are there. If you have a woolly winder on your spinning wheel, the thing that automatically, goes back and forth and distributes the yarn, those, I guess, I don't have one, but somebody just recently mentioned it. Might have been Joanna at Knit Spin Farm. Anyway, that those need to be cleaned and taken care of too. So if you have one of those on your wheel, you might look at what you need to do with that. So that's the other step that I like to do to get prepared for spinning for sock yarn or any big spinning project. It's something we should do regularly, is maintenance of our wheels. Well, here we are, officially ready to start our Sock Spin Along 2024. I've been looking forward to this day, and I hope you have too. It sounds like a lot of you are. One thing that I've noticed in the comments, especially from those of you who are returning to do this for a second or a third time, is that this time you're going to throw caution to the wind and experiment with fibers and with yarn types and what you spin. And that's the goal of this make along. So I was happy to hear that. If it's your first time spinning with us, welcome. And I hope that you will enjoy yourself and learn something along the way as well. So I'm going to get right down to business because I want to get this up and out there. You hopefully will have seen some little clips leading up to this portion. These were recorded over a span of a few days, but I hope they'll flow together really well. And I'm actually recording this section. Last time we may have snow come flying off the roof and making a big noise. And I also took down my clock. I noticed when I played back the last video that you could hear the tick, tick, tick of the clock. It sounded like a countdown to something. So I did take the clock down and I covered the mirror for while we're recording today. So anyway, back off of my tangent. I'm recording this the day actually before it's going to go up, this portion of the video. It's January 23rd, but that's because I know it will take me some time to get it uploaded. But when you see this, hopefully it should be January 24th, and that's my birthday. So happy birthday to me. And I want to talk just for a minute about symbolism. Symbolism is often kind of an important part to my making, to my knitting, my spinning, my projects that I choose. And so one of my subscribers on Instagram pointed out something, and that is that we're starting on January 24th, 2024. So that's a 24 and a 24, and she mentioned that she had already determined, excuse me, that she was going to spin for 24 minutes a day in the new year. And so she thought it was meant to be that she would participate with us. And so I thought that was pretty neat. And thank you to her for sharing that comment with me. And so I wanted to share it with all of you. And I sat down and spun for 24 minutes the other morning, and I finished up an ounce. So that would get me through I didn't have it plied, but I had it spun. So that would get me through my fibers pretty fast because this is a small amount of fiber for this project. The other part of that is that I had told you that I like between 6 and 8 ounces of spinning fibers to spin the yarn for a pair of socks. And the giveaway that we're doing for the fiber sampler is 6.5 ounces, and I'm turning 65 today. So I think those just all come together to make it a good start, right? To our kickoff, to our spin along. I hope that you have gone back and watched the playlist from the last 2 years, especially the first year. And if you haven't, the link is down below so that you can click on the playlist and watch from the beginning, especially that first year, which was 2022, because I go into a lot more detail about some of the basics. I just figured there's no sense in rehashing all of it. So if you want to go back and watch those short videos, if you haven't already, that's a good thing to do. So onward. What I'm wearing, because someone's going to ask, it's chilly in here today. This is my Gaderian Cowl, a pattern by Marina Skua, and I made it maybe last year. She runs a make-along, the Out of the Dark make-along. It's still ongoing right now. And I love Marina's patterns. She's a designer whose patterns I love to knit. I'm actually knitting a sweater of hers right now as well. But I thought it matched. I tried to brighten myself up a little bit today. Got the hat hair going, but you don't care. That's not what we're here for. So continuing on. You hopefully will have seen some little clips, and we will have talked about fibers. I'm looking down at my notes. Wheel maintenance. We have to have our spinning wheels in good working order. Taking care of our hands, not just for spinning, but for all of our crafts and our work, and especially, I think those of us who are farmers or gardeners or shepherdess, we really have to take care of these hands, because spinning right now, excuse me, can be a little rough. So we touched on that. I talked a little bit about resources, books, videos, YouTube channels, learning from friends. We talked a little bit about that. And so now, finally, we come to the time of beginning our spinning. Hopefully, you will have chosen your fibers. But if you haven't, I'll just talk about that again really briefly. I showed you a little clip where we talked about, maybe you're starting with raw wool and you're going to wash it and comb it or card it or drum card it or spin from the locks even, I don't know. And if you are doing that, you're going to need probably a little more than that 6 to 8 ounces. You're going to probably need at least 8 ounces because of weight. Maybe you're spinning from roving. Maybe you're spinning from a big fluffy bat or a small bat. You could be spinning from comb top. You could be spinning from pin drafted roving or pencil roving. Any of those things, but hopefully you've chosen a fiber. If you're blending the fiber yourself, we talked about some possibility of blends. What I like, which is wool, a medium length, like between 3 and 5 inches. 4 is the best to me, or good. And if you're going to blend it with, say, an alpaca, say a mohair, llama, something like that, try to match the staple length as best you can. Now, if you're spinning from a prep, this one happens to be comb top, you may not know the staple length. That's not a good color. Here, this is a little darker. And this is going to be a short one. But you can pull that apart and get an idea of about how long that staple is. See, this one is only about 3 inches at the most. But so that'll give you an idea. And, if it's farther one side or the other of that, just try it. Just experiment with it. See how it works. But that's what I like, is about a 4-inch staple. And I thought I'd show you what I've chosen to make my socks out of this year. Are you ready? This is going to be my socks. I'm going to be spinning from the same group of fibers as you all had the chance to win, that you saw a week or so ago. So they are, this is the fin, the dark gray is the fin. These are all Michigan fibers, all within 45 minutes of me. Oh, not all of these. One of these is not. But what is in the sample pack? Fin roving. This is from a new to me breed called Harlequin. This is my Corriedale, an alpaca, and Angora bunny for my bunny toes blend. And then this light silver here is a Shetland. And this is not one of my Shetlands. This was a sample gift from my friend Stephanie at Condor's Croft and Garden, who raises more medium wool Shetland. And her ram Condor, she sent me some I think it was about 4 ounces, wasn't it, Stephanie? Beautiful, beautiful silvers and creams. And so I washed it and blended it. And I told her I want that to be part of my sock for the sock spin along. So this is mine because I only have a few ounces of it. But this is what I'm going to be using. The only thing I might do differently, I've got to do a sample spin. I've got a dark brown, a dark chocolate brown Corriedale. that I might use instead of the fin shape, or I might just use it as a stripe somewhere. But that's what's going to be my spin for our spin along this year. In pattern, I've already chosen a pattern. Now I'll modify it because I knit all my socks toe up, and I have a particular toe I like, and I have a particular heel I like. But there is a pattern that I want to make, and it's in one of the resource books that I showed. And I'm going to show you the picture. It's probably going to be backwards. Maybe I'll insert a picture. But it's from the book Folk Socks, A History and the Techniques of Hand Knitted Footwear by Nancy Bush. It's an Interweave Press publication, and I am going to knit the Ukrainian socks. And that is because, if you've followed me for a while, you know, Ukraine is my heritage, my great-grandparents, and I'm afraid that some of the conflict there is getting lost in other media, and I just, any little thing that I can do like this, I mean, there's other things to do, but this is something, again, the symbolism to me of knitting, something that it was in the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, Canada. She says they have a collection of Ukrainian socks. And so this pattern is based off of that. So I'll use, it's a colorwork sock, and I'll use the colors. I'll change it to fit my stitch number and my foot and my way of knitting, but I'll use the color patterns. I did say that I really like to have some color work going around. You see, here's the toe of a sock. This is one of my hand knit socks. And the color work going around gives me some extra, I feel like extra strength and cushion. And so I like doing that. I did mention when I was talking about, you know, sampling with our yarns and seeing if we're getting a fabric and a size that we like. You can knit a little swatch, or I mentioned there that I knit toe-up socks, and if by chance you do as well, then the toe is a perfectly acceptable place to practice, because it's about, for me, the toe is about 34 rows. And so I get that far. It tells me if I like the density, if I like the way the yarn is working. It isn't really a gauge swatch, but I know about how many stitches I need. This one may not show as well. This is actually a sock in progress. And again, it's dark gray, so probably my sock toe isn't going to show as well, but let me hold it up. I'm going to hold it in front of my face. But can you see, again, 34 rows for the toe. And then I moved on to some color work, and yeah, that's too dark. It's not going to show, I don't think. But we'll talk about sock construction more as we get into this. So, do you have your wheel or your spindles ready to go? Have you given your hands a little spa treatment? Have you chosen your fibers? And maybe you're waiting to see if you won the fibers, and I'm going to tell you about that here shortly. Do you have some resources, or are you going to, follow along with us here as a resource, and then you can maybe go further afterwards? If so, you're ready to start spinning. And I like my bunny toes for the toes, but if you don't have that, that's perfectly all right. For me, my socks, unless they're my tall socks, end up weighing around 5 ounces normally. That's why I say I like to have at least 6, because I want to have a little extra. But maybe you have bigger feet, maybe you want to experiment more. But about a half an ounce spun up gives me enough yardage for the toes of both my socks. So just as a ballpark idea. Anyway, let's move on to the fiber giveaway. So that's all there's going to be for today. I know it's really kind of brief, and I probably didn't tell you anything other than that we're getting started. Had to pause for a minute. So if the other, I guess, tip that or thing that we might want to talk about to get you started on spinning, if you don't already have an idea of what you want to spin, is to decide if you want a 2-ply or a 3-ply in any of its variation: cable, crepe, Navajo plied. I'll tell you that for me personally, I spent a few years trying to perfect my 3-ply yarn for my socks, And I found that I really didn't need it. I also found that I really didn't like the way it felt in my foot. So again, this is personal choice. I spin a 2-ply. I don't spin for this like a commercial sock yarn size. I like a little bit thicker than that. Mostly I'm sorry, I'm umming all the time. I'm thinking out loud. I like a little bit thicker than that. But what size of yarn do you want to spin for? Do you want something as lightweight as a commercial sock yarn, a 4-ply or a fingering? Is sport weight okay with you? Worsted or DK? It might be a good idea when we're starting to just spin a comfortable yarn for you. I will say that for me, I tend to spin a fairly balanced yarn in the singles and then over twist a little bit when I'm plying. Now, some people say the opposite. They over twist the singles and then ply loosely. That's just what I do. But I don't go to any extremes. I correct some of that if I don't have the twist enough, because I don't want a hard yarn. I don't want a hard yarn in my sock. And you know what I mean by hard. Like if it's over twisted, it can be rope-like or string-like, and I don't want that. I want some cushion, some bounce. And I can adjust that with needle size a little bit too, depending on what I spin. So be thinking about that. And I think probably the best thing to do before we come back together next Wednesday is for you to practice. If you have enough fiber, practice spinning. And I would say try a 2-ply unless you have your heart set on a 3-ply. But you're going to get more yardage out of a 2-ply. But that's what I do. I spin a 2-ply. What else? What drafting technique do I use? Generally, some version of a short forward draw. I'm not good at the long draw. And even though we want loft and air in our socks, I think we also want a little bit more firmness to it. Any place I think that you have a bubble in your sock yarn, say if your plies aren't super tight or if you have a short fiber that pops up, I think you have a chance of it wearing through. Now that being said, I also find that if I spin, for example, when I did this one, the main color, the body of the sock, is a finer yarn than the contrasting color. But that's the nice thing with wool. It's so conforming and eager to please that those discrepancies in fiber thickness will tend to work themselves together. So that's something to think about too. Think about how many yards you're aiming for if you've got a pattern in mind. Another reason I recommend toe-up socks, if you don't mind doing a toe-up sock, is that you can get the most mileage out of your yardage. So if you only have enough to do a shorty sock, or if you need to do contrasting toes, heels, cuff, you'll have a little bit better idea about that maybe. So that will be our assignment for next week, next Wednesday, or this week until we get together next Wednesday, is for you to sample with the fibers that you've chosen. And maybe is there anything here that we've said today that might have made you change your mind about what you're going to spin? So with all of that said, I think it's time to do our giveaway drawing. How about you? I hope that you won. And thank you for all of the lovely comments about the fiber. I haven't responded to them because I wanted to wait until we drew for this prize. Remember that I'm going to announce who you are here. I'm not going to ask you to click on any link or send any money or anything like that. I'm going to announce your name here and then tell you, give you a couple choices where you can contact me, okay? Just to keep us all safe. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll also talk about the next giveaway, okay? Well, are you ready for the winner of the first prize giveaway? The 6.5 ounces of fiber that you could maybe try to spin for socks. And that's going to be 2 ounces of fin sheep, 2 ounces of the new to me breed, Harlequin, 2 ounces of Corriedale and alpaca, and a half an ounce of the bunny toes, which is Corriedale alpaca and Angora bunny. And it's in shades of gray, probably. The Corriedale alpaca, I might switch out to a brown, but it will be similar to this. And I showed a picture the other day as well. So the random comment generator chose Mary, last name Heimdahl. I don't want to try to say it and say it wrong. I'm going to put your name up here on the screen, Mary. And if you could contact me, I'm not sure if you're on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, where I'm at My Wool Mitten Farm, you can message me there. Or would you email me? And that is mywoolmitten@gmail.com. If you email me, I'll get your address and find out where to send this fiber, and look forward to hearing what you think about it. And thank you to everyone who commented. Some of you commented in that you didn't need to win the prize, and so I took that into consideration too. And I wish I had enough fiber to give to all of you who made such lovely comments. But now I will go back and answer your comments too. I didn't want to do that before I mess up the numbers. So Mary, congratulations. And if I remember right from your comment, this is your first time joining us. So I hope that you will enjoy it. And please feel free to ask any questions that you might have or make any comments. So again, Mary is the winner, and that prize will be going out to her. And also then we'll be drawing for the other prize that I mentioned that will be for the next giveaway. Thank you for participating. So the next giveaway that we're going to do, where Socks Spin Along 24, is a resource giveaway. You've all heard me mention many, many times how much I love the Homespun and Hand Knit book. Folk Socks is another wonderful resource because it talks you through several techniques for toes and heels, and then it gives you some historical patterns. So 2 people are going to win. One is going to win this book, and one is going to win this book. They're not going to go together. So there'll be 2 prize winners in the next draw as well. So leave a comment down below and tell me if you have a favorite reference book of your own for hand spun yarn, or if this would be the first one that you would have. So just tell me, yes, you have another one, and maybe share what that is, or that you'd be really excited to have one of these. And thank you for participating.